Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Dave Trippin. You can see behind me the kind of teaser of the new place, but this is not the apartment tour because you can also see that it's missing a bunch of furnishing and stuff, so I'm not going to do that until I got it, and then I'll do the whole thing because I'm very excited about it. But I wanted to talk about in this video having a good impression at your schools when you first arrive to teach English in Japan, because I was thinking of my own situation where I was like, I've missed it because school's already started. But then I thought about it. There's a lot of situations where teachers with a number of different companies will only start teaching at a school in like the second week as of like the 13th. So for those people, I could still provide some good information for creating that first solid impression, which when it gets right down to it, it's almost like the lazy man's approach to Japan, because whether we like to admit it or not, so much of our experience with people and the way that we are treated is based on a first impression. And so if you get this done right, then it'll allow you to be much more relaxed following that first impression that you leave with someone, or the teacher specifically at your school. And so I wanted to talk about a couple of different things, like some of them might be no-brainers, but other little details you might not have thought of, which could be really, really, really good to improve not only your later experience in the school, but just generally your whole experience of being in Japan and having a good time at your schools. And so the first one that I was thinking of talking about was one that just came to me over time when I was at my last schools, and I realized that a really cool thing to make you more a part of the school is to be able to sing the school song. It's called koka. It's got that like oo sound in it, but you might think it's koka, but it's koka. And you can learn the school song. And so that's a really quick thing when you arrive, and if you want to blow their socks off with a really good impression, say, hey, do you guys mind if I get the school koka from you? Because I want to be more involved with the school. And also, if you can provide me, a lot of these songs are provided with hiragana, or furigana is like another description when they put hiragana above kanji. So even for native speakers of Japanese, they will provide a music sheet that has the hiragana on it, and the hiragana is a great basic thing that of course you're going to want to learn to speak the language, to be able to read the language, things like that. So you're going to get great practice for yourself to learn reading hiragana if you don't already. Maybe you've come over and you already do. And in addition to that, you're not going to have to do that funny thing when you lip sync whenever the school song comes on, which I sort of learned most of it by the end of being at one of my schools, but I never took the initiative to do this, where I've now moved to my new school, and it was the first thing I asked for when I got there. I said, can you hook me up with the koka? Hand me a copy of that and I'll practice it. And of course, that's going to make you look really good right away, because you're going to become actively involved with something that could not be any more a symbol of the school that you're working at. And it's fun. It's fun to sing. Who doesn't enjoy singing? So that's one thing to do. Another thing that you can do, obviously, this I suppose falls under the category of being a no-brainer, is if you study Japanese, I highly recommend, if you're in elementary school and planning a ton of lessons, if you're in a junior high school where more your role is usually to support and you have that additional free time, if you're studying Japanese, not that you wouldn't in any other time, but if you come out of the gates really, really strong, it'll probably encourage the staff also to feel more comfortable speaking to you, because some of the staff are intimidated if they feel expected, whether that's put on them or they've done that to themselves, expected to speak English to you. So if you're studying Japanese, they're going to go by your desk and go, oh, they're studying Japanese. Maybe there'll actually be a little bit of conversation I can have with them. I'll feel more comfortable around them in that time. And so that's another really good thing to do, is just studying Japanese. In addition to that, so studying Japanese, learn the school song. And kind of what I touched on at the beginning of this is that it's just so good to do these kinds of things, because once they create that initial impression of you, then should you want to vary from these maybe more regimented habits, these kind of like studious habits, you might say, then you're going to be given much, much more leeway. Where if you come in and you have your own personal laptop and right away they can see that you're kind of messing around on the laptop with unrelated work stuff to occupy your time, they'll come down hard. And then it's even if following that time, even if following that instance you start to get your shit together, you start to actually work a little harder, they won't notice the work because you already slacked off at the beginning. So that's kind of my like cautionary tale, is that if you do this in the reverse order, it's really, really, really bad for you. It's like infinitely harder to make up this ground later than to do it at the beginning. And I know a lot of people are thinking, of course I wanted to have this good impression. But it can be a reminder for those who are just like, oh, well, for those lazy people who are like, well, I wanted to slack off. That's the funniest thing to consider. But if you want to slack off, work really hard at the start. You heard it here first. Maybe everybody knows that already. What else? What else can you do? Also, dress code. When you're going into work for these major companies, like say for example, like the place that I work at now, eventually will be business casual. That's kind of like the dress code that I have in place. But a lot of these other places, like my previous company that I worked for, which was Interact, I always add that T, it's not really there. When you're working for a company like that, they expect you to be suited up all the time, rain or shine, without fail. And it does not make a kind of practical sense at some of these schools to be doing so. For example, if you're at an elementary school, you'll notice very quickly that a lot of the teachers around you are dressed in tracksuits, and that's because of the more active nature of what's going on at those schools, like playing at recess and things like that are going on, which you will very often in an elementary school it'll be far more the case that you're invited to do those things as well. And so it doesn't make so much sense, but you have this mandate from the top down saying that you should be wearing these really, like I say, suited up, really, really formal attire. And the same reasoning works here, where if you want to make a good impression and you want them to give you leeway at the school, this is not so much with the company, you just kind of have to deal with the company in a separate way, is to really suit it up to begin with, and don't try and move to a more relaxed dress code unless offered to do so. For example, I'm using mine, although it'll always be business casual at where I work now, but I'm suiting up for the first 2 weeks, maybe even 3, I don't know, probably not 3, let's be honest. I'll probably go for the first 2 weeks, even though after the first week I could probably go right down to business casual. I want to impress into the minds of the staff and to the students that this guy's a professional guy. And once you've done that, then you bring it down to the more business casual. You go without the tie, basically. And that creates a good impression because you have solidified in that period of time, that week or so, that you're a person who takes the job seriously, that they can trust you, and that when you move down from that more formal setup, that it's not you trying to get away with something. I was saying to a friend recently, a good method that you can have in elementary school when you want to figure out when is it that I should dress down, when have I made enough of an impression. Usually it's to dress up at that higher level, more formal, until they say, oh, we got this event today, do you want to go and do that? And if you're wise to it, you can always bring this change of clothing along with you when you've gone to your school. And on that day, you're like, oh, I was prepared, I'll bring out my change of clothes that I had. And then you wear those clothes, and they're probably not going to ask you after you do whatever physical activity it is to then change back into whatever you were wearing before. And the next day, you just show up wearing that stuff because you're like, oh, I thought we were going to do something similar. So you've even positioned yourself in a way that if you did try and push the letter or whatever, that it'll make it look as though you were doing it in a proactive kind of way. It wasn't that you were dressing down because you were trying to get away with something. You were dressing down because you were trying to be engaged. You were trying to anticipate whatever it was that was going on at the school. And at the junior high school level, maybe you won't have an opportunity quite so literal as that, but same rule applies in developing the rapport, like I suggested, at first with your school in the first little while, and do it in increments. I guess that's the way I would suggest it. You go from like the suit to you go to like a kind of casual, like one-tone sweater over top of a tie and a collared shirt. And then from there, you've done that for a little while, and then you do away with the tie. And then it's kind of up to you how warm you want to be, and whether you want to go in a collared shirt or you want to go in kind of like the business casual sweater, and you can alternate between the two. But moral of the story is here, without making this like a 15-minute video, is err on the side of being really, really, really intense for the first couple weeks or so, and then whatever changes that you might make, you'll have established a personality and you won't be working it back against the resistant force of somebody thinking that you are lazy and then having to prove that you're not. Work active, then be lazy. I don't actually mean to be lazy, but you know what I mean. If you got half a brain, you know what I'm talking about here. This is all to make easier a change, not necessarily to be lazy, but if you do want to make a change, this is how you would go ahead and do it. So there it is, creating a first impression. Probably the gold morsel coming out of this, and maybe the main reason that I made the video, was for that school song. Because almost aside from creating this impression, you're just gonna have a good time learning that song. And then it has all these other wonderful side effects associated with it. So thank you so much for checking out the videos. This is the first one from the new pad. There'll be many, many more to come, and probably very, very soon, because I think in the next week or so I'll have my furnishings. I'll do a full tour. I'm also going to do the how to buy a car in Japan, because I got the car now. And I know for a fact, if anybody wants to buy a car, I can save them a huge headache for all the little details regarding paperwork and stuff like that, how to not get snagged along the way. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. If you feel like subscribing, that's awesome. If you want to support the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that like button. If not, whatever. Thanks for just checking the video out in the first place. And if you want to check out my Let's Play channel, it's been dead because I don't have internet here, not proper internet aside from like a pocket Wi-Fi, but check out my Let's Play channel, and that will be going live again as of this weekend, because I will now have proper internet and amazing internet speeds in addition to that, which I'm really, really stoked about, like a gigabit connection, which is not, anyways, nerdy details, nobody cares, nobody cares, no one cares. Yeah, thanks for checking out the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ciao for now. Peace.